Our special called meeting, which is being held today on September 28th. We will begin by opening with a pledge. Ms. Carpenter will lead the pledge, and Mr. Hyatt's going to lead us in a prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your blessings. Lord, it be your will. We ask that you bless our staff here at Swain County Schools. We will continue to seek your wisdom, courage, and strength through these difficult times. Lord, please help us to be wise in the decisions we make here tonight. Please help us to make the decisions that are good for all involved. Dear Lord, let us always seek your will in all that we do and say. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
So I'll call our meeting to order. Mr. Sale.
This evening, we're here in special session because we have talked about wanting COVID updates every 2 weeks. And also, as part of this tonight, this is the first time we've gotten together since the governor has released K-5 to possibly come together with larger numbers. And so that would be a point of discussion under that topic as well. But before we get into any of that, I think that we should ask Allison Cochran to come and give us an update on where we are with our numbers in the county. So Allison, would you come, please?
About the approval of the agenda.
Hang on a second.
Just there, right there, you're fine.
We need to approve the agenda.
Approve the agenda, yes.
Thank you, Lambert.
Do you have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. And that was unanimous. Now, Allison, update us, please.
Good evening. I'm going to skip down for Swain County. Total tests is 4,610. We have 37 pending tests. Since March, we've had 149 positive. Currently, we have 8 active cases, 3 deceased. The overall positivity rate is 3.2%, and case fatality is 2%. The overall positivity rate has dropped, and of course the case fatality has dropped with the number of people being tested. Currently, the 8 active individuals, 1 was tested for a medical dental procedure and came back positive. They were asymptomatic. We have 4 contacts, or 4 positives that were contacts for a Macon, Jackson, or Swain positive case. We had 2 individuals that were symptomatic and that went and got tested. And then we have 1 individual who technically has already came out of their 10-day quarantine period, but they are still actively sick. Mm-hmm. So we have kept them on the active case. On the back of that first sheet is, of course, the breakdown by the cases by age. There are 18 from 0 to 17, 18 from 18 to 24, 61 from 25 to 49, 34 from ages 50 to 64, 12 from 65 to 74, and 6, 75 and older. Down below that, I've listed Macon, Graham, Clay, Cherokee, and Jackson. Beside each of the county is the date of the information that I was able to obtain. Of course, Graham County has jumped in numbers. We're all aware of the nursing home as well as a cluster that has been identified due to church contact. So they have that as well going on in Graham County. But overall, it's about the same for all the counties from previous reports.
Does anybody have any questions, concerns? So again, I just always want to make sure I'm looking at this and understanding it correctly. Right now, our overall infectivity rate is at 3.2%.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And you can look across the line, July 23rd was 3%, and then we went to 3.5, 3.7, back down to 3.5, 3.4, and we're at 3.2 currently.
So from the beginning, we've stayed in the 3.3 to 3 point something?
Since July we have, yes.
Since July, okay. Any other questions or concerns? Are you staying, or do you,
I'm
not-
staying. I can
Okay,
stay.
we may have other questions as
That's
we
not a
roll on, if you don't mind.
Not a
Thank
problem.
you.
As far as the school system is concerned, we are still able to manage all of the presumptive positives that might come across our doorstep. In fact, what I'm noticing right now is that we don't, to my knowledge, have a lot of presumptive positives that are coming into the building. What's happening, in my opinion, and Brandon, you're here, yes? You keep me on track on this if I'm wrong, okay? But what's happening is, because of our community's concern, if there is a student or a staff member who feels they may be in a position of risk, they keep themselves at home. And that's really helping us out. Is that a fair statement, Brandon? Okay. So there really has been very little change, except for that one issue that happened with soccer, traveling soccer team. And that was all outside of the school system and handled outside of the school system at this point. Okay? Do you have any questions or concerns that we could answer? I've got my whole staff here tonight. The other piece that is on the agenda tonight has to do with your wishes concerning staying with Plan B the way that we are right now, particularly in the elementary setting, or moving towards Plan A. Regardless of whether we stay with B or shift away from B in the elementary, there are some pieces that we really need to look at as a school system, and we're putting people in place to take care of that. We have found that our folks have worked very hard at helping our students who are on Swain Virtual Plan C stay up to date and be able to achieve the things that they need to be achieving, and yet there's still struggle. I have some numbers that were shared with me today, and what I'm finding is that probably a third to a half of our elementary students right now in Plan B or Plan C are struggling to stay up to where the teachers feel like they need to. The greater concern right now is at the high school. And this is based on teacher statement. There are 131 students out of the high school that are slightly off pace, but there are 397 that are significantly off pace. And
that's regardless of which plan they're in, correct?
That's my understanding, although this says Plan C. No, it's just Plan C. I'm sorry, I misread that, Melly, because it says Plan C, all courses. So that's 131 courses that are slightly off, but 397 that are extremely off or significantly off. That has to be addressed. And I don't believe that it is a flaw necessarily, or because the teachers at the high school aren't working hard. I believe they need more support. So we have made arrangements to bring another set of hands to the high school, and that will be that person's only job. They'll work 4 days a week to make sure that we're making contacts with students and getting the students the support that they need. We're also going to bring someone into the middle school to do the same thing. Another piece that we're looking at right now, and I believe that we'll be able to accomplish, is bringing 2 people per day, 2 days a week. That's 2 days a week, 2 people each day, to the schools after school for 3 hours, so people can either dial in virtually or perhaps be there person to person. We'll have to think about the comfort level of the teachers with that, so that we can give them, particularly Plan C, some additional support.
Now, is that at all schools or the elementary schools?
That's all schools.
Bringing those people on
All schools.
school? Okay.
Yes. Because regardless of whatever action you all take tonight, we're still going to have students that are on Plan C, and they're showing the need for some additional support. So we're going to commit ourselves to that.
Will these be staff members that we already have will be doing after school? Will they-
If we have staff members that are willing and want to do that, absolutely. That's our goal, Lambert. And we'll be paying them the traditional after-school rate of $25 an hour for that, okay? But those are pieces that we are going to have to take care of, regardless of whether our elementary stays on Plan B or moves to Plan A, okay? We have the opportunity to move, to bring more students in to the elementary schools right now. The team has worked significantly hard, in my opinion, to see that we can do that and maintain social distancing, because I believe that that's the desire of everyone, and that would be something for Allison to speak to in just a few minutes, if you want her to. We have done very well with social distancing, and I believe that that plus masks have enabled us to take care of keeping the problems out of the schools to this point. If keeping social distancing is the goal, there is not any way that we can serve all of the students at one time. That means our Plan C students need to stay on Plan C for now. And so we would bring our A schedule and our B schedule students in, and we would mix them in classrooms. We would keep our classroom levels under 12 in most places. There are some rooms that are larger and that could handle 13 or 14 and still maintain social distancing. And those are the places with the numbers that you're seeing where they go above 12. But we still are able to maintain social distancing with that, okay? What we would recommend is that we continue on our 4-day-a-week schedule. That would give us an opportunity to help give our teachers a chance to plan and to also clean effectively in the middle of the week as we need to. We could also use that Wednesday for some additional tutoring for Plan C students if they can get there during the school day. Another piece that needs to be thought about with that is if we go to 5 days a week right now, it's going to be difficult for us to deliver meals into the community. And that's a real concern of mine right now. We've had conversations, some about that by email, about the fact that we've lost the opportunity for now to receive our pandemic electronic bank transfer because of the way that the wording was written. The best that we can do right now is to take 5 days worth of supplies out on Wednesday and give them to homes so that they'll have food that way. If we go to 5 days, we'll lose that, okay? And I really don't want to. If we were to come back to, or go to Plan A, the next step for us would be to poll our Plan C parents and find out how many of them are interested in their students coming back into the building if that opportunity comes available. Because we really don't know how many would want to stay on Plan C or remote, or how many would want to come back in. That would be a point of information that we would need to research and bring back to you. And then we would need to see what the governor allows from there, okay? I think that we have a good plan for that. I believe that we can keep our students safe. However, we would follow whatever your concerns are and would entertain questions about that if you have them.
I've got one question going back to the ones that are falling behind. That's C students.
Yes, sir.
Any studies on B students? Are they doing?
I don't have that in front of me. Yes, I do have that in front of me. At the high school, no, I don't have that level of information from the high school here in front of me. What I am seeing is consecutive absences, and the consecutive absences at the high school right now are running fairly typically at about 10%. But as far as it affecting B students, I don't see that at the same level that's happening to C students. I don't have that information. Trina?
Those absences that are there are those that they get when they do not finish the remote work.
Okay.
So that's why,
okay.
that's like that. That's one of those running.
Okay, I want you to explain that to the board, please, okay?
So it's
Come to the microphone if you don't mind, so anybody listening can hear you.
So in Power School, the absences are coded differently. So if they get an absent for not coming to school on their day, they get it coded one way. And then if they don't do their remote work, they get the let me get it right, one eyes. And so that's what he's looking at there. Those are the numbers. And so we have numbers for how many kids have missed so many days of remote work is all we have for the B students there at the high school. But it's growing.
And the reason, Jerry, that I am hesitant to give definitive numbers on that is because the reporting numbers from the elementary and the middle school are low. I mean, I have 21 students. Is that students or classes?
And where are you looking at?
Here, in kindergarten.
Yeah, that's students.
I have 21 students reported about from kindergarten, from the teachers, and we have significantly more than 21 students. So the numbers that I have, in my opinion, are not good representation. If I were to use these numbers, what I see is there is a concern with Plan B about students completing all of their work, particularly virtually. There is a greater concern for Plan C, just looking at these numbers.
So let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly, Ms. Turbyfield. So if I remote in, and I'm remoting into a math class at the high school on Monday, and there's an assignment given, and I don't, and hit send and complete it, even though I remoted in, that's still considered an absence? Is that an oversimplification, or?
Different schools are doing it different ways. The elementary schools would absolutely count that as being present.
Gotcha.
And then they're doing something. The high school, I'm not sure if they remote in. I think that's just totally not doing their work that goes with that.
Okay. Which makes sense, I mean, especially at a high school level. I just am trying to.
And really, their virtual work is not really remoting in at the high school
It's
level, because
different.
on Plan B, because
Right.
they're busy teaching face-to-face on those days, and it's just the work that they're assigned through Google Classroom or whatever.
Okay.
Do you know how that compares the Plan C in other school districts, Clifford?
I don't. What I know is there was some communication today amongst some of the superintendents by email. By email? No, by text. And there is a concern across the far western end about students who are not participating and not completing work, to the point, and even today the conversation was about absences, to the point where some districts are moving towards truancy for students that are not completing work.
You think that's a connectivity issue, or is it something?
No, I don't. I think that connectivity can be a piece of it, but I also think that there has a tendency to be a mindset that if a teacher is not laying eyes on the student, then there is less motivation for the student to do work, and the parents are trying to get their kids to do work, but that's a double duty for them, which is difficult. Do I have any research to prove that? No, I don't.
Do we still have a problem with some connectivity or the internet services in the county? That you know of?
Not like we did. Do any of you want to address that? No? Okay. Not like we have in the past. We have 300 hotspots that are available. Some of them have gone out. We have less people now who are reporting that they are having to leave home in order to complete work than in the past. We might be looking, Travis, at a maximum of 10% of the families that are on remote C who are showing that level of struggle at all now. And we have the opportunity and are offering them the opportunity to overcome that.
The site's still open, like the First Baptist Church and things like that, is that all still available?
There are some sites that are open, yes.
Got a what-if question, I guess. If we were to go to Plan A, they'd have Wednesday off. They'll be doing remote work on Wednesday.
Yes.
Would that, the fact they come back in on Thursday, will that help motivate them to, you think,
I think significantly,
to
yes.
get that done?
Yes.
They could actually turn in probably then Thursday? Is that-
Yes. I think that's a significant factor, Jerry, that we need to consider in this. Because we really are placing a lot of responsibility,
Right.
particularly on young students, to almost be self-motivated. And parents, I believe, are torn sometimes between being the parent and being the teacher. And we're also asking parents to do things that really, if they felt that they were skilled to do that, they would be a teacher already. Because teaching is a different skill than being a parent.
About how much time are the kids that are learning remotely getting per day? Say, like, I know that we talked with that man one time before, and he said his daughter was like an hour a day in kindergarten.
If you're talking about the amount of work that we're expecting from them,
Yeah.
I would need somebody from out here, Brandon or Trina or somebody, to remind me of what those numbers are. Do y'all remember? The expectation from remote learning?
An hour at kindergarten, up to 4 hours at high school level, and it spans, it grows through each grade span, the amount of expectation.
But then again, Lambert, you know that there are going to be some students who will work through that more quickly and others who will belabor over that.
Yeah.
And I have seen that some of our, particularly our remote teachers, have said, don't work beyond this number. If you don't get the work done, stop at that point.
So when you start talking about the Plan A, one of my concerns is at pre-K, Bright Event, we haven't had any problems there, and they've been going 5 days a week. Is that correct?
Tommy says that's correct. And pre-K has had more stringent set of standards than the rest of the school system has for quite a while, because the pre-K has been operating under, if anyone in your house has a symptom, the house stays home. And so the absences have probably been multiplied from what I have seen based on that. From the numbers that I have seen, Travis, no, we have not seen an increase in issue, particularly with this or anything else. Am I speaking incorrectly, anyone? Okay.
So the surveys that are going to go out at some point, is that just to see students, to see families, or to potential A and C families?
What I'm thinking is they would just go to our Swain virtual plan, see families, because we really need to develop an understanding and a knowledge of who is interested in coming back into the building and who is not. Because what I'm hearing is that there are a significant number of families that want their students back in the building. But I don't have any numbers for that. And there will still be some, and we've seen some evidence in places that there are some who they're going to hold their children at home. But I don't know what those numbers are.
And I mean, one of the thoughts that I've had, and I don't know if it's remotely accurate or not, is let's just assume that I'm a parent who currently has my child in a Plan B. So I'm just going to say my child is coming Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. As the parent of that child, I'm very comfortable with that because I know that the numbers on the days that my child is there are very low. I may not be comfortable with having Plan A or A students and B day A students and day B students back in the classroom. So I guess long editorial to say, are we just going to ask all of our parents? I mean, how are we going to approach this?
Well, we were assuming that we would approach this, that everyone wanted to come back. That's absolutely a concern. And if a parent has that concern, we have an option for them to switch to Plan C. That's been in place. Now we've had to dial back on that some, because what we're finding is there have been so many people, particularly at the high school, who have chosen to move from B to C, that we are not able, with the hands that we have, working in Plan C, to care for all the students how we feel like we should. That's another reason that we're adding more people to the program at the middle school and at the high school.
So parents wouldn't have the option of, if their kids are coming on Monday and Tuesday, being off the other 3 days, if we do Plan A, those parents would have to send their kids those 4 days.
I think that would.
They would not be able to send them just 2 days and
No.
continue doing what they're doing.
No, because they would fall behind in what's happening in the classroom.
But they have the option of C if they don't.
Yes, we'll do our best to give that to them, Travis. There comes a point, though, where we're going to have to pull teachers out of classrooms to facilitate remote learning, Plan C. And at that point, our social distancing numbers are not going to be attainable. We're that tight with all of our numbers right now.
With this Plan A, the teachers in K-5, are they comfortable with that
Yes,
idea
sir.
of going to Plan A?
Tommy went and spoke with the teachers at both schools. You want to report on that?
Yeah, that'll be fine. I spent the day in the schools, and I didn't speak to each and every teacher, but I spoke with the vast majority of the teachers that are working in the classrooms at East and West, and they, I won't say they were completely without concern, because there was, you know, one or two here and there, but it is the exception rather than the rule that were concerned about the difference in the number of kids and how much harder they think it'll be to keep them to maintain their social distancing, just because more kids in a more confined space, you know, makes the space more confined. But that was the generalized singular concern that everybody had in terms of whether or not we should, or anybody being vocal and saying we shouldn't be doing this. I don't know. I didn't get that from anybody. What I got was, you know, so we are going to be working on keeping our social distance. And their big concern was that they were afraid that we were getting ready to say we're bringing C kids back, our A's and B's and our C's, and we're going to put them in here in the classroom and we're going to roll. They gave us the opportunity to do Plan A, like what we talked about to begin with, and that's what we're going to do. And they were apprehensive about that. But when we talked through this as an option, because when I spoke with them, I told them, I said, I don't know what we're going to do. We don't get to pick that. This is just something we're thinking about, and I want to get your input. Overall, very supportive, and appreciative of the fact that we're not going to make the classrooms so packed that the ability to social distance will go away. I think that really aided their comfort in the process.
And Vicki is here from West, and she could address that directly from the school perspective. Evan couldn't be here tonight, but we can call him. He's available by phone right now as well. Would you like to hear from Vicki?
Yes.
Of course you. Hadn't seen y'all since March.
We've seen you on Facebook.
I know.
You read to us.
Every Sunday night. Hi, guys.
Hi.
It's good to see you. I want to reiterate what Tommy said. I think for the most part, my teachers are ready for A's and B's to be back. I've heard a lot of concerns as I've had individual conversations about as students are there for 2 days. Let's just say your kid comes to school on Monday, Tuesday, and then they're at home doing remote learning on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They roll back to school on Monday, and we start to review Tuesday's lessons so that we can start to teach, and we get the deer in the headlights look. They're losing a lot between, from what I understand, between when they go home on Tuesday and when they come back on Monday. And that's a concern. And then teachers are worried about being able to keep them away from each other in the classroom. They are worried about social distancing, but that's the only concern that I've heard. And we have the pieces in place. Like we have PE figured out, we have recess pit figured out. We'll continue to have lunch in the classrooms. You know, it's not like we have to go back to the drawing board and replan everything. But if as long as we can get the social distancing in the classroom figured out, I think they'll be comfortable.
So if I hear you correctly, then if we go to this modified Plan A, as we'll call it, because we've named it so many different things, 8.5, yeah. The plans that you already have in place for PE and recess and lunch will just continue on, and you'll be able to continue those plans with higher numbers
Yes, ma'am.
in the building?
Yes.
Okay.
So already our children go to PE. Everybody gets to go to PE every day, but they go one class at a time. Or that's not true. They go separated. So like one coach has a class, one coach has a class. Like if it's 5th grade, then then we have an assistant that pulls, another class, and they go play on the equipment that day. So we have a schedule so that each of the days, so if they're there 2 days, they see a coach one day and an assistant one day. So we will just keep all those plans in place. We will not change any of that because Mr. Sale will not let me pod children in PE. I've asked 42 times. 43.
Squeaky wheel.
Are you comfortable with that plan of combining those students into the 4 days instead of 2? As
Yes,
the
ma'am, as
principal?
long as we can keep them apart and my teachers are comfortable, then I absolutely am. Yes. Yeah. We're going to have to, Kim, we're going to have some time to figure out the logistics of getting the desks in the room, and we're going to have to move some furniture. So we had weeks to plan this in the summer, and so my custodians spent a lot of time getting furniture out and shuffling it and moving it around. We don't have a lot of tables in our classrooms, but we still do have a few. Those are going to have to come, like everything that's not a desk is going to have to come out of the classroom. And then we're going to have to move desks in and do measuring. And with the help of our custodians, we can absolutely do that, but it can't happen overnight.
That's a concern I was thinking, the timeline on that. I mean,
Right. That's one of the things I'm worried about, Travis, is just the amount of time to get it done, to get the physical plant ready for students for us to have more students in the building.
What would be the amount of time you think would be reasonable?
Tommy and I have talked about 2 or 3 days to make it happen.
So a week would easily cover it.
I think the earliest, Jerry, that we would be looking at this would be the week of October the 12th.
Right.
That's what okay.
And I specifically had a conversation with Evan about that today, and those are the numbers that he gave.
Okay.
He also just sent a text that said ditto what Vicki and Tommy said. I'm comfortable, just like Vicki said. Time to prep is huge.
Yeah. And our teachers need time too, because they need to wrap their heads back around what's it going to look like to have more than 6, 8 kids in the room. When we go to 12, and I've got a couple of classes that are going to be at 14. What's that going to look like? How am I going to do that? I've got a brand new teacher that I did an observation for. Her first ever observation. There were 4 children in the room, and so on my way out the door, I was like, "Honey, you're getting a little spoiled here. What are you going to do?" She's like, "I really don't know, Miss Davis." So it's going to be an adjustment for our teachers, and we're going to have to give them a little bit of time to wrap their heads around that.
That's only that date is only 14 days away, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monday is the 5th, next Monday.
Right. I think it would, but I think it would be fine. If y'all were to make a decision tonight and say you've got 2 weeks, then you just can't make a decision tonight and say you got till Monday. Please.
More time than that.
I don't think so. We need more time than that.
Monday, we need more time than Monday.
Yes, we need more time than Monday, right?
Monday's off the
But
table.
2
We're not talking
Mondays,
about
we're
that.
okay.
2 weeks.
2 Mondays would be all right, yeah. And I don't know about, Tommy, we had talked about an additional day or so with just staff in the building and no kids. But I don't know whether or not that's on the table.
That's what I interpreted. You mean the teachers being allowed to get the rooms reset.
Yes.
That's what, additional letter to, you and I spoke about that also, about needing some additional time to reset.
So Toby, don't we have a work day the week of the 12th? It's on that Wednesday, correct?
We have the 7th.
On the 7th, so that it's next week, correct? And the suggestion, please correct me if I'm wrong, the suggestion has been to move that workday to the next week, and that would give our teachers a chance to do exactly, and our staff a chance to do exactly what you are talking about.
Unless you're coming in on that Monday, then the Wednesday of that week might be better to move furniture and all.
Okay.
Get ready.
Okay.
Whatever works.
So we have a workday that we can move.
It's the Wednesday the week before, the Wednesday the week you bring kids back, if you come back on plan A.
So if we moved that workday from the 7th,
To the,
you could move it to the end of the week, or you could leave it right where it is and use that day to get your rooms reset. Would that be enough?
no.
That's the 7th, it's a Wednesday, there's no students in the building already on those days, and we could use that, part of that day to reset anyway. It's, because the only difference there would be the virtual responsibilities of the children for that day, you wouldn't be planning those weekends. So if we were gonna do that and use that day, we would have to put it as a Tuesday or a Thursday, and have a Wednesday, Thursday, maybe 2 days to get sent that way. But 2
Right.
days in a row would give us 48 hours and 8 hours of all hands on deck working on that, and then we will finish the next day, in my opinion. If that's all it is, that would be what we're talking about.
I think it would push us hard to reset the entire, every classroom in the building in one workday.
Okay. Okay.
We were talking about sending a survey home, or I wouldn't go home, but with the C students?
Yes.
To see if those parents are interested in sending their children back.
Yes.
How will we decide who comes back and who doesn't come back?
We would have to wait until you, as a board, felt comfortable with our numbers increasing in the building, because we would lose our opportunity for social distance. And my recommendation would be that we bring every student back that wants to come back, that's currently on Plan C at that time.
Can you say that one more time?
My recommendation would be that we would bring every student on Plan C back at the same time when you, as a board, are comfortable with them coming back, because we will lose our opportunity for social distancing.
So we won't bring any of the C students back when if we do the A?
We can't do that.
Okay, all right.
Because we can't, unless you're willing to release the social distancing concern, and I would encourage you to talk to Allison about that before you make that decision, okay?
Well, I'm happy to go on record and say I am under no circumstances comfortable releasing social distancing.
Okay.
So, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for the board. And please, just as a reminder, because I'm getting a text, if you're in the gallery and you're speaking, please come to the microphone, because people who are listening can't hear you.
I do have one more question. If we do go to this Plan A now for coming back, for the Plan B students coming back at some whatever date, and with Allison's information, she recommends that we flip back to a Plan B.
Yes.
How difficult is that?
That was going to be one of my
I think that we just flip back to where we are right now. It's just a matter of reversing course, that's all. Would that be a fair statement?
It would be far easier to go back, because it would not require any resetting of rooms or any of that type of thing, because to put 7 kids back in a room that's set up to accommodate 14 is far easier than changing a room that's set up to accommodate 7 into accommodating 14. So it wouldn't take us anything to be back ready to roll with this. It could be every bit as quick as we were in the spring, because we were ready to go the next day for all intents and purposes, really. And I think that I don't see we'd have any lag any different than that. I think we could go in really from Monday night to get the word out and see what we can do. Only thing that would hamper us would be the time to communicate. Other than that, as far as logistically, we could do it.
You sent us an article I read about K-5 students and their lack of, or their lower percentage of transmitting. Is Allison, does that come her? If you would have her come in.
Okay, she doesn't want to speak to that. That's not, Jerry, that's one article, and I sent it to you because it seemed to be a comprehensive look at multiple studies, okay? But that's only one article, right?
I read some other articles on that too, and they all seem to say that K-5, or elementary, whatever we want to call it, students are faring fairly well throughout the country in school. And then that's what I want to know. Can you expound on that and what the studies are showing about that age group?
The younger kids, there's studies coming out that the younger kids possess it's not a gene, but it's something that they have more of, and I don't know the exact name of it, I'm sorry, that decreases as you get older. And they believe that is why they do not transmit it as easily or get the virus as easily as adults do. That is the one study that I read last week about that. So there's that. And they've always said that the younger kids are not transmitting or catching it like older people are. So that goes to support that. Going with the schools with Plan A, social distancing, I've always said the mask and social distancing is key. Plan A, you do not have to social distance. It's not a requirement, but I highly recommend it. And the reason is, if you have all those kids in a classroom and you've got one that comes back positive, we have to look at everybody that's been within 6 feet for at least 15 minutes or longer. So if you're not social distancing, you're looking at putting probably at least half the class out automatically, possibly even that teacher. So if you can maintain the 6 feet, that's going to be key to going back to Plan A at this moment, in my opinion.
Now, that's in the plans you're recommending?
Yes, it is. That's the reason that we've said Schedule A, Schedule B only right now.
Right.
And keep our Plan C at home, and then ascertain how many of them want to come back at another time. That gives us stages to work through.
Is there a percentage of positivity rate in Swain County that you would recommend that we could bring everybody back in K-5, or is it just
No.
wait and see?
Wait and see.
Okay.
Because it really depends on what happens with the children with that age group, how many come back positive, or if they do at that point. So there's not a magic number, unfortunately. I mean, we have to go with what the governor says, and he says we can do this with Plan A for K through 5. But I agree with the school. I don't think I would bring in Plan C at this time. I think that's too much. And I think we need to wait and get the two groups together, if that's what you decide, for weeks. I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks at least, a couple of months, and see what that looks like at that point.
Would there be a percentage at which you would say, back the other way? Especially like within the K-5 family?
It would depend on how many were positive, and if they were linked together as a cluster or not. Is it all of 4th grade, or was it 4 siblings that were in 4 different grades and now they've infected 20 other students? You know, it depends on each scenario. There's way too many possibilities. I mean, we've said from the beginning that you'll have to go to virtual when you lose your staff.
Yes.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
That's what we've always said.
But we're holding our own with the way we're doing it.
Yes, we are. And like I said, that 6 feet has been key from all of the other positives and contacts that we've had up until this point. So, you know, talking with Vicki and Evan and Tommy and everything, 6 feet for whatever we can do in all those circumstances. Even with eating in the classroom for breakfast and lunch, that's going to be key because the masks are off at that point. You know, even looking at ideas and maybe putting a couple out in the hallway to eat. I know that's probably not very feasible, but, you know, just thinking outside the box.
So hearing what you're saying, you are comfortable with doing Plan A, as we've talked about, bringing A and students on Monday, Tuesday, and students on Thursday and Friday back as one collective for the 4 days? As long as we social distance and
As long as we social distance and masks, which masks are still required, it's just the social distance. When you get away from the social distance, I'm hesitant on that. Our numbers are low, please don't and I hope they remain low, but we're going into flu season and everything else, and we really don't have any clue what this virus is going to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Other thoughts, other questions?
Mind-boggling.
So we're good with the bus routes?
Bus routes look good in every area except for a couple. One, we're probably going to have to add a bus. That's the Big Cove route. The numbers are a little bit too high right there. Toby, there are some other concerns. Why don't you come and speak to that? But I believe that we can handle them.
And by saying we're good with the bus routes, let's clarify that we're establishing that will continue to social distance on the bus.
We're talking about one per seat
One-
unless they're from the same household.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're all clear on that.
That's been our working hypothesis from the beginning, is we're going to maintain that even if it's relaxed on Plan A. We have about 3 buses that are going to give us a little bit of trouble. They're going to be quite full, maybe 4. But we feel like we can work around all 4 of those if there are 4 without too much difficulty. We're putting in a request right now for an extra bus, a loaner from the state to help us out on routes. We're going to be looking for a driver for that one that will give us some relief too down the road for that one. But we feel pretty confident that if you decide to do so tonight, then we'll go to work tomorrow, moving some folks around and doing what we need to do. Because we got some light routes too. We got some routes that are only running 6 or 7 people. So, if we can fold those together somehow, then we can make that work. We just got to find the right combination of where they're at to maximize it.
And obviously by the potential of combining routes, then that isn't going to require another bus driver and another bus
Correct.
to accommodate.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, but I think that we're still looking at the fact that we're probably going to have another bus
And
and a driver. And I'm confident we can do that.
Well, the loaner it's just that, it's a loaner because of the pandemic. So, it's almost crazy not to go ahead and ask for one to get it because it's not costing us anything and we can return it after the year's up. And it won't cost us anything. So it's better to have it on hand and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Can you find a driver?
That's going to be the key. We'll start looking tomorrow depending upon what you guys decide you want to do.
Is that going to change the pickup times and the length of the kids being on the bus?
Yeah, it will change it. It'll go back a lot closer to what we've done in the past with our routes. We'll still stay within the confines of not arriving before school, before X hour at that school and things of that nature. But yeah, I can anticipate it making the routes longer, a little bit more time consuming, especially the Big Cove route and the Alarka route, which are the 2 biggest ones right now. They're long anyway, just by nature. So we'll have 2 buses traversing the same area. So that'll mean both those buses will be a little later probably than they have been. Our goal is just to deliver kids. Right now, the time constraints isn't that big of a deal, from that standpoint. If we get there a little late, that's better than getting there a little bit early. Makes it easier on our staffs to handle those kids coming off that bus. So time's kind of on our side, to be honest with you. The key will be, it's probably going to increase our drivers' hours just a little bit in some regards. But I think we can control that too.
do we still have some areas where we have what I would call maybe a common pickup?
No.
So we're stopping at individual homes
Correct.
throughout all, even on Big Cove? Because at one time.
I think we do have 1 common stop at Big Cove. Maybe 2, I don't know. But we've tried to eliminate as many of those as we can. And the fact that we've gone to what we did at the first of the year where we have tried to isolate elementary from middle and high school, it kind of works in our favor a little bit here because the buses that are elementary, they're truly dedicated to the elementary. And so they're a little lighter than what the others are because we don't have those high schoolers going back and forth with the middle school in that case. But we do have some like that. So we're just going to have to sit down and study it a little bit more thoroughly to see how we can efficiently do it. But I feel confident that we can do that.
Other thoughts, questions? Thank you, Toby. Anything else y'all feel like we need to add? Anybody? I believe we can do it. I understand the reluctance and the concern, 100%. But I believe that we can maintain our social distancing. I believe our teachers can handle it, and I believe that we can meet the needs on transportation. and we can always move back if we need to, although that's the last option that I really want to think about. One of my primary concerns right now is the fact that we have students that are continuing to fall behind, and I want to do everything that we can to minimize that in every way, and I know that you all do too. But past that, unless you have further questions, I don't know what else to add.
Would a motion be appropriate to go ahead and move toward Plan A with all these conditions they've already talked about, giving them, let y'all work out the days that you can spend with that work day. But in that motion be that if at some time, say 3 weeks after it, that in consultation with Allison, because we put a lot of trust in what she's told us, that between her and you, that if you think that it's going in the wrong direction, you just automatically stop it then and just notify us. We don't have to come back and do it. It just be your call.
I'm comfortable with that. I don't know if everyone else on the board is comfortable with that or not. I know you'd have to vote on that. But between Allison and I and the team that I have surrounding me, because I put a lot of trust in them, I believe that we could handle it that way.
You've done a good job so far planning and teamwork, and I'm comfortable with that.
I don't have a question, because I know that we've talked about if this is going to happen, it's going to commence at the end or beginning of the next quarter, at the end of this quarter, the beginning of next quarter, and that's October 16th.
October 16th? Correct. Yes.
But we're also talking about October 12th. So is there a transition point?
We can make it. I think that October the 12th would be the earliest that we want to look at. I'm not opposed to waiting until the end of the quarter and doing it then, if that's what you all want to do.
But does that make a difference in the children's transitioning in for academics or anything like? Is there?
What does the principals think about that?
We're talking about waiting until the end of the quarter.
It might not be a bad idea in terms of giving people, giving us a chance to reset and work on the planning pieces for that. It also, the quarter break is kind of a natural break in when things happen, so it might make sense. Yes, ma'am.
And the next board meeting is the 14th. Isn't that correct? Joanne, is that correct?
That sounds
Or is
about
it
right.
the 12th? When is the next board meeting? It's the 12th. That's right. The 14th is a Wednesday, so it'll be the 12th.
The 16th's on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So then we'd be looking at the 19th.
Actually
start that
brings
month.
the,
Yes, to start everybody back in the building.
It's another week to plan, another week to do, another week to see if numbers are still the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's-
for me, that brings a little more level of comfort, and I'm not the one that needs to be comfortable here. I understand that. But it also does something else. It allows us to see what's happening in surrounding counties who will start back before we do.
That's true.
Because several other counties are getting ready to implement their version of their Plan A. And so that gives us a little bit of time to see, if their numbers increase or stay the same or whatever. So, and I feel like I'm always the one getting hung up on one or two points. But I just want to make sure that I'm clear and everyone else is clear. If we survey those parents who are currently on Plan C, we are not surveying them to ask them, do you want to come back now?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's really clear to all of us and to everyone who's listening, because I wouldn't want to have information out there that's confusing, because
Sure.
the whole thing is confusing. I mean, when you talk about Plan A and A days and B days, and it just all
Yes.
runs together. But I wouldn't want parents who are currently in Plan C to feel like we have dangled a carrot or an option out there that is really not valid for right now. It's just, it's because that is not what we're discussing. We are fully discussing integrating our A day and our B day students back into the building at the same time, 4 days a week.
That is the only way, Melly, that we can guarantee
Social distancing.
It's the only way.
Will parents have the right to go to Plan C if they choose to?
We will do our best to do that, Lambert. Once again, if we find ourselves in a position where we can't serve the students on Plan C, we have a problem. And we're approaching that now.
I think we need to be real careful when we do the survey of C parents. I think that should be after, if we do a Plan A, that it should be well after that has started.
Okay,
So the parents don't think that
I understand.
they have the option to come back.
Okay.
And I think legitimately, the bigger question might be, should we survey those who are currently coming on A day and B day?
See how many of them would want to go to C, you know?
Because if there were to be an indication of a mass exodus to Plan C, then as you said, we're in trouble. We don't have the means to support that.
Not without moving teachers somewhere. That's
Right.
right.
But you're still going to move ahead with this additional support, strengthening the virtual.
Yes.
Regardless,
We have to.
yes.
We absolutely have to.
All right, that's good.
And I know you've given this information before, but how many of our students are Plan C over the whole district?
649,
And that's percentages?
35%.
How many in the elementary schools?
I don't know that number.
I've got 108, Lambert, if that helps.
108 or 180? 180.
Yeah, 170, 175. Yeah, something like, you know.
And I will say it's 121 at East. That's the number sticking out in my head. It's on the spreadsheet I shared with you.
Right here it is. I'm sorry, Lambert. I calculated this the other day. East has 122. According to this says 165 for West, but there may, okay? And these were accurate numbers, to my knowledge, as of last week. So you're looking at 387 total out of both elementary schools.
So to put any more in the school would be an impossibility.
I think it would be, yeah, if you look at the numbers, on this sheet that we
They're cutting social distance.
We can't social distance. We can't keep our numbers in the classroom at 12 and 13, 14 max in the big rooms.
Is there any way to find out soon how many parents would choose to change their kids to C if we did?
What is
today,
Monday? We could have a survey completed for that by middle of next week. I'm thinking.
I think that's a very important part before we just jump off the ledge, you know, to make sure that we're not just sitting here making an educated guess. I hate to use the word assumption. That those who are currently in Plan B are going to jump at the chance to come back into a modified Plan A. I'm going to call it modified because to me, Plan A is wide open.
Yeah.
And we're not going wide open. So I think that might be a wise step to make, is to let's survey the parents who currently have their children enrolled in Plan B. Their kids are coming to our school 2 days a week. Do you want your child there 4 days a week, knowing that their class size will be enlarged, but we will still maintain social distancing and masks and, you know, everything that we're doing just means there'll be more, your child will have more classmates. So.
I think that parent having the the right to choose is very important. To me, it's very important.
Then we can do that.
I don't know. As we've all said so many times, this is just the most unusual set of circumstance that we've all ever lived through. And I'll say the same thing for the current families who are in Plan B. I don't want to dangle a carrot in front of them that we can't fulfill.
Yeah.
So if we were to sit here tonight and say, let's move to our modified Plan A, but in the course of doing that, found that we had a lot of students choosing to drop down to Plan C, that would derail us. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that?
It would be, Melly, it would be difficult for us to, in my opinion, to support additional Plan C students with the structure of facilitation that we have right now.
And even with our adding to that, if the numbers grow.
Yes.
Then we've not gained anything.
I have not made plan to add additional staff to facilitate remote instruction, Plan C, at the elementary levels. Okay? So if that's the wish of the board for us to survey that, there really is no need to go any farther with considering Plan A.
So I guess if it's unlikely that we'll be able to help to serve those, if there's more from that's in Plan B now that would go to Plan C, then is there an option that we should give, shouldn't give? Kind of what's your thoughts on that? Because, I mean, I'm hearing what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm just a little, unsure about that aspect of it. Because if we can't serve them in Plan C, we're not helping them at all by giving them that option.
I believe that it will not help their education. I believe that they will struggle, particularly at the elementary level. Yes. We're seeing struggle on Plan C everywhere because it's just hard. It was a lot simpler in the spring because there was no accountability. You basically showed your eyes and you were promoted. There were no grades. It was pass-fail by and large. Right now, what we're finding is it's a challenge for the average person, for most people, to work independently based on virtual instruction.
Has there been anyone spoken to parents about those that are in Plan B to think that they would want their child to be in Plan C even though
No.
they've been in school?
No, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about surveying. No.
Well, I mean, a survey versus you want to put your child in C, but if there's not an option to put them in C, then I guess I'm not seeing the purpose of a survey. But
Right.
I don't.
But if
That's
we
my
had,
struggle.
if there was 30 more kids at West Elementary whose parents wanted them to go to C, then we could shift staff, because that's 2 or 3 classrooms that will be going virtual. So there would be 2 or 3 teachers who could do virtual teaching.
It would depend upon where the numbers came from.
Yeah.
That's really difficult to predict.
Yeah.
And if we wait another week for a survey, that's going to push our staff not knowing another week they can't get started. So,
But our staff we're in a pretty decent flow right now, at least in the school buildings. We're struggling with C. more than with the students that are in the school buildings. But, and I want to be careful, Travis, because I don't want to try to persuade anybody to go in a particular direction. I think y'all know, I believe we can do it, but I understand your concerns also. But I think y'all heard what Trina said about students that go home on Tuesday, and then we try, particularly elementary, and we do our best to serve them on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with remote instruction, and they come back with a deer in the headlights look on Monday. So we're losing ground there. And the truth of the matter is we're losing ground on all sides.
I think we go ahead and make that decision tonight. And then if a week from now, week and a half from now, we see a large shift in either going to C or wanting C going to B or whatever, then we can reevaluate at the time.
C can't come to B.
Well, right, but I mean,
So let's make sure
well,
we
B
don't put
going
that
to
out
B
there.
and B wanting to go to C, or a big change like that, which I don't see that happening, but it could. I think we need to go ahead and make our plans, and then if we have some bumps in that, then we come back and revisit it. But right now, let's go ahead and make a plan so they can start planning, and I'm comfortable with the plan that they presented.
There are two options here, as far as I'm concerned, Jerry, and that is we can continue in the direction we're going, get information like you've asked, or we can start moving forward with planning. I don't see any other options there. One of the things, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring this up, one of the things that the community is going to ask is this. And I don't mean this as pressure towards anyone. I really don't. Other systems are already going to Plan A, okay? But the community has to understand this also. In many of these systems that are around us, they have less students that are taking remote education than we do. Graham County is in the teens, as is Clay County, to my memory. So their transitions are not as drastic because their parents are already expecting this to come. And the other piece that's different is, and I'm not saying that you all need to do this, please don't take it that way, but social distancing in the elementary schools in other districts is not a concern. And that's why they're willing to make those decisions, okay? I am not saying that that's what you all should adopt, but I think it's important that our community understand that there's just a difference between Swain County and other counties right now, okay? Maybe I shouldn't even have said that, but that's going to be the question coming down the road. But just because somebody else does something doesn't mean that you have to.
Well, I guess I'm sitting here and we've heard from the health director who's comfortable with it, with the caveat that we have to have social distancing and masks. The principals from the elementary schools we've heard from that they're comfortable with those things as well. So I don't know. I think that those are just the two things that are running through my mind as.
And again, I'm not trying to, don't want to derail anything. I feel like we're moving in a great direction. My only thought in saying, should we ask, is I don't want to get into this modified Plan A and get moving forward only to find out that we just couldn't for some reason pull it off. But if that's the case, then we just have to stop and regroup. I think it would be just as devastating to those parents who fully want their children back in our schools for us to start and then go, oh, wow, we couldn't. But, those are all those what ifs that none of us can really account for. So we've talked about a couple of potential start dates, one being October 12th, but then we also discussed October 16th, or the 19th, excuse me, which would be the quarter break. That would bring our students back into the building at the beginning of the next quarter, right? So I think if someone chooses to make a motion, then I think it would be important that the start date be included in the motion. Am I overstepping my bounds by saying that?
No, I think that's,
Now, there's another piece, and I don't know if y'all remember this or not, but whenever we saw our numbers creeping towards a difficult place with Plan C, we put an application process in place. And we have been limiting who can move from A to C based on health concerns and needs, okay? And that could also be part of the process as well, if that's what y'all want. I just wanted to put that back on the table as a point of memory. I don't know if you're,
Still in place,
pardon me?
I'm assuming that's still in place.
It is in place now, yes.
Keep that.
I think it's important that parents have the right to choose, or at least to apply.
To apply.
Yeah. I think that's very important.
How's that going?
It's actually only been used a couple of times. It seems that numbers may have slowed down. And some parents have been able, a parent in particular, I don't want to say some when it was one, a parent in particular went to a doctor and got a medical request. And so at that point, that application should be approved. Other times, the application process has done exactly what I hoped it would do, and it slowed the process down and gave people an opportunity to talk about it. And there were other options. I believe, I'm speaking correctly, there were other options that were pursued. Correct, Vicki? Because I believe that happened at your school. We're talking about the application.
I'm sorry, I was talking to a teacher. I apologize.
We're talking about the application process from B to C.
Yes.
And didn't you all use that? And it allowed us to slow the process down, have a conversation, and look at some additional options.
Yes, guys, it was, we had several families who just were they're trying to avoid the process of school.
Is that a fair way to say that? And so instead of us just allowing them to go see when that was not what was best for their children, we put an application in place and sent it home with these families, and miraculously, their children have been coming to school. So we've slowed the process drastically with that, because it comes with, you can't just say I wanna. You got to say why you wanna, and if there's medical reasons, then we need medical documentation to go with that.
That's exactly what I wanted to happen.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, that's got to be an option,
Yeah.
an ability to.
I'll make that motion.
All
We
right,
go-
well, let's word it very carefully. so
I'm
we
going
know.
to. I make the motion that we go to Plan A, which incorporates A and B students into a 4-day week, and that we do that October the 19th. Again, with the understanding that if statistics change, with the conversation with Alice and then the superintendent, Mr. Sale, that everything could change. But that's just a side note. But the motion is to go to Plan A for A and B students.
And to upgrade Swain Virtual.
And the upgrade's already there. isn't it?
Yes,
You need that
the
motion?
upgrade's going to happen.
Okay.
We have to, Travis.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Right now, because now that we have a motion and a second, there's an opportunity for discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
My only thought is that we need to be specific about, since the governor's plan A only talked about masks, I think we need to be specific that we require social distancing and masks. I think that has to be a part of.
I'll include that in the motion.
Yeah.
That is specifically stated in it. It's social distancing and mask. Yeah.
And I would add, and again, I get hung up on details, I realize that, but perhaps we should call this modified Plan A, just to send the message that we are not
Bringing everybody back.
fully opening those doors up, because I stay confused half the time, watching the news and going, who's doing what, when, where, and how.
Well,
So,
the motion does say that for Plan A and B students at present.
and we're going, do you mind including, and we'll call this modified Plan A?
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, any further discussion?
And it's clear that it's only for K-5.
K5,
K5.
yes, let's make sure that's in the motion.
Do you want to add, Lambert, that, and you may not, that we add, that we continue to provide the opportunity for students, for parents to move from A to C?
I don't think that has to be in the motion, but I
Okay.
think that needs to be understood.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
We continue the application process
Sure.
of, yeah, okay, all right. So, do we need the motion kind of read back to us, or are we all good? Ms. Joanne, were you able to get that as we jumbled? Would you mind to step up and read
Step
it
up
to
and read
us?
the
Or
motion
hand
again,
it to Mr.
please.
Sale and let Mr. Sale read it to us?
You want me to read it? The motion is that that you, not we, adopt a modified Plan A that includes A and B schedule students for 4 days each week, beginning October 19th, with the understanding that social distancing and masks will be a requirement. And there is a stipulation that this can change or can stop for K-5 at the recommendation of the superintendent and the health director.
That's it.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody good with the motion as written?
Okay.
All in favor, raise your hand, please. And that was unanimous. All right, yay.
That was a hard one, too.
That was hard. That
Well-
was really hard.
I voted originally to do everything virtual, because I just felt like that's what I had to do personally. And I've been very impressed with what our school system has done. I don't think we could have asked any more of our staff. So I trust you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's another element, and I don't know, it's just a point of discussion here. Lambert mentioned that it would be a good idea for us to look at providing flu shots for all of the students who are interested in that. I've had conversation with Allison already. Didn't we talk about that, Allison? Yeah. And I've also had a conversation with Blue Ridge Health, and I will include a conversation with Urgent Care and also Swain Medical to see if we can develop some flu shot clinics for our students. Since one of the concerns right now is with the flu season coming, that could really create a larger issue. And so I'll have a report back for you on that. I'll tell you about that by email. Uh-oh.
No, just to clarify.
Okay.
I have spoken to Smoky Mountain Urgent Care, Jill,
Yes.
and she's on board with this.
Very good.
So we can work towards that.
Yes.
So it'll be ages 0 or infancy to 18 is what we can do. And then for the health department, we don't take insurance, but of course Jill does, so we just have to work through that. And or if they're uninsured or Medicaid. So both of those groups would be free.
So would this be done at the school or?
Theoretically, we could do it at the school. We could do it in an evening through the drive-through at the bank like we did the COVID testing. So I'll just have to meet with Jill and with Mark and see what we can set up and go that route. And then also talk with Blue Ridge and see if they can help participate in that or what they want to do.
That's awesome, that's great.
I think that's a really strong movement. And
We would have to have parents' permission to do that, and a lot of our students are members of the Eastern Band, and it may be available for them already.
Yes,
So
it is.
that would cut down on the one, how many we'd have to do.
Yeah, this is something new that we've never done in the school system, so we're not real sure how many would take advantage of it. But a lot of people still go to urgent care or to the pediatrician, and this would just take care of that visit for them, just through a drive-through event, so. But hope,
we'll get together and plan that and let you know about that.
yeah,
Okay?
we hope to schedule it in October, soon, very soon.
Yes.
Wonderful, that's great, thank you.
So I believe that's all that's on the agenda for tonight, Ms. Burns. Thank you all very much.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? And that was unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you all.
That's the hardest 12 years.
Yeah, yeah, I know.